Siera Bearchell. Hey, good to have you here. How
Great
are
to
you?
Be here. I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so glad we are having a reunion after
Yes,
Winnipeg.
I know. It's been almost exactly a year.
Exactly a year.
Yeah,
So
here we are.
to let people know, we were both actually, so I've actually followed you for a long time, but then
thanks.
I was so happy you came to Winnipeg.
Yes.
And then we were at the pageant, and then I was like, one day I'm going to get her on my show. So
That's
I'm
awesome.
glad we can cross this off the bucket list. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And you just came back from Iceland.
Yes,
What
was
was
just
that like?
in Iceland. It was amazing. It was beautiful. But my husband and I spent 9 days in a van together. So
In a van?
In a camper van. So
Okay.
It was actually amazing, but it definitely I would say 4 or 5 days is my limit in a camper van. That was about enough.
A camper van, sorry, is that like an RV or
No, it's
more?
like a van that the table converts to a bed. So like you're in a van, you're living in the back, you cook more so outside than inside. Like there's no bathroom in the van. It's a van. So it's an amazing country. It was beautiful, but certainly I am more of a city girl, I will say.
I could have pictured that too, but I like that you're up for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I was pregnant. Well, I am pregnant.
Yeah.
And so, the extra hormones in there, it really added to the excitement. But yeah, it was great.
I feel like pregnant women are watching this be like, no, I would never do that.
Yeah, no, like we did a few hikes and I dropped quite a few F-bombs on some of those hikes because I just wasn't feeling it, So, but it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. It was so worth it. So
I was going to say, if you're going to try it anywhere, do it in Iceland, right? I haven't been, but I heard it's extremely beautiful.
It's beautiful. And then at the end of that trip, I got to be a judge for Miss Universe Iceland. So I got to end it on more of a glamorous note. So that was good.
What is that like? Are they different from, let's say, Miss Universe Canada? Like, is the actual kind of...
It's similar. The setup is similar, but it was different. Just there was less girls. There was 14 girls. Iceland has a smaller population. There's only about 300,000 people on the entire island.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but it was amazing. The girls were so outstanding. I have never seen a group of girls where all 14 of those competitors had outstanding interviews. They had amazing walks. They were so well prepared that any single one of them could have walked away with the title. So it was fun. It was a really cool experience.
And don't you love that you get to be on the other side now?
It's so much better.
It's so much better, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
anytime I go to pageants now just to watch or support, I'm like, oh my God, so much more fun than being on stage.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, it's great. I love being on both sides, but it's certainly more relaxed to be on the judges' side.
I gotta ask you, you did the Q&A with them, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah.
Was there Q&A? Okay. What was did you get to ask the question yourself, or did they give you a question?
The onstage question answer, or no, we didn't get to do that, but I know. So
That's the best part.
Yeah, they did the old pick from a bowl kind of thing, the question. So we didn't actually get to ask that, but we got to ask all the questions in the interviews. So I always ask a little bit of everything, from the tough questions to just tell us about yourself. Why do you want to win? Just getting to know the woman.
I love the tough questions, by the way, because I've done some of the preliminary when they're just trying to narrow it down.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I like the tough questions,
Right.
because then you really get to get a sense of the girls. Because I remember when I was in pageants, especially for the Q&A round, you'd be like prepared for everything, and then let's say the girl beside you gets like the super easy question, like, what makes you happy? And then you're like, oh, I hope I get that question. And then you get the
hardest
talk to us about
question.
politics, and you're like, okay, how do I do this lightly? But very, very cool that you got to do that. I don't know if people know this about you, but you're actually from Moose Jaw. And I was thinking back, I was like, do I know anyone from Moose Jaw? And I don't. So thank you for being my one reference. I'm
so
going to picture
proud.
every girl is like you there. What was it like growing up there?
Growing up in Moose Jaw was such an awesome experience for me because it's a smaller city, 35,000 people. So when I went off to do some of the things I got to be so fortunate to do on a national level, I had such an amazing support from the community, and it was outstanding. I really don't think I would have been able to get to where I got to if it wasn't for the community support that I had. So it was awesome. I still love going back there. I don't know if I would ever live there. Never say never, but I like a bit of a bigger city. Yeah. But it was amazing. The people are so sweet there. It's just a good old prairie town.
So how did you get that interest into pageants? Was there like a little mini Miss Teen Moose Jaw or something, or?
It wasn't quite like that. I had never really been interested in pageants. I'd never watched Miss Congeniality, but I know, so strange. I've since watched it, so don't worry. Yeah. But it started with somewhat of a disaster, if you will. My family and I lost our home to a house fire, and this was in 2009. So I was 16, and I'd heard a little bit about this Miss Teen Saskatchewan, but I didn't know what it was. And so the Red Cross helped us out from the house fire. I started working with them, volunteering with them. And then I thought, oh, maybe this pageant thing, maybe I could make a better difference, greater difference with the Red Cross. So I entered Miss Teen Saskatchewan. I bought a $100 dress. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I ended up winning, went on to win Miss Teen Canada World, was second runner-up at Miss Teen World. And that was all fun, you know, winning these competitions. But what was more fun was being able to have the experiences that I had. I got to go to Kenya, Africa, help build a school for the children, speak at the WE Days in Toronto and Vancouver, which those were I think the first year that they ever did them. So at 16, I was speaking in front of 16,000 people. And I thought, what an amazing community, this pageant world providing all these opportunities. So that's kind of how I got into the pageant world.
But what about all the training? Like, it just seems like you kind of were like, all right, let's do this. And you did well. But did you try to do any sort of training?
I didn't really do any training, and I was fortunate because I had been a dancer since I was 3 years old.
Okay.
So I kind of had that stage presence, I guess. And then I really was not a good walker in heels right away, but from the Miss Teen Saskatchewan to the Miss Teen Canada, I did some practicing, and then with interviews, I really just tried to be myself. And I know it's so cliche, but I just thought I'm not going to look too much into this, because if I try to be what I think they're looking for, then I'm not being myself. So I just kind of went for it, and it ended up working out well. And I built my skills along the way with the different interviews that I did on TV and that kind of thing. I would see myself on TV and think, okay, maybe I should do this a little better. Maybe I should say this a little different. And I just kind of learned from the experience.
So you ended up going for Miss Universe Canada, which is obviously the ultimate here.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So you went in 2013.
Yes.
Okay, so that is the big league. So did you kind of feel more pressure for that one?
I felt more pressure in the sense that when I competed in 2013, I was trying so hard that I lost sight of why I started doing the pageant thing to begin with. And I was trying so hard to be what I thought they were looking for that I placed as first runner up, which was fine. Yeah. And I didn't win, but I was so
close.
Well, but I was so grateful that I didn't win, because I just wasn't myself. I ended up losing quite a bit of weight, and I truly was starving myself. And there's healthy ways to, you know, get fit, look defined. I was not doing it in a healthy way for me. But I did have a coach who was not the healthiest coach to ever have. And it worked out so well that I didn't win, just because had I gone on, I was such an insecure woman at 20 years old competing. I had lost who I was. And so it was the best thing to have happened that, okay, I knew I had what it took to win, but it wasn't myself that I was representing.
So when you say you were just doing anything to lose weight, like what was it actually like?
I basically was working out as much as possible and eating as little as possible. So I love doing hot yoga. I love running, but I started to hate those things because I was doing them to an extreme without fueling my body properly. And so I didn't have the right support in my life to say, you know what, this is how you need to properly fuel your body to get the results that you're looking for. I just was working out like crazy and eating as minimal as possible. Sometimes I would have a protein bar, I'd cut it in half, I'd have half in the morning, I'd do hot yoga.
What?
And it was so, I would have like Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, whatever, to try to like fill my stomach.
Yeah.
It was so, and what was worse is it's one thing to put your body through that, but I started to almost see myself different than I was. Like kind of like that body dysmorphia where you're looking at your body, but you're seeing something else. And so I knew this was a bad path to be on. And so I really took a step back after Miss Universe Canada 2013, reevaluated what was going on. And I said to myself, if I ever want to do this again, right now it seems unlikely, but if I ever want to do it again, I need to do it for myself in a way that's healthier for me. Because I can't go on and represent something that just isn't authentic to me.
You know what's interesting though, because I remember from the pageant world, we all do that, especially in the beginning, because even though maybe no one will, actually sometimes people will tell you to lose weight, but most of the time it's not spoken. You're just supposed to understand it. And you get this pressure and you're supposed to be promoting this healthy platform, but then essentially there's just things that they'll do, or like I was telling you before we started, designers will say things that you're like, oh, you know what? they just keep reinforcing that you got to lose weight. And it's just, I've always found it was a weird tug of war to be like, but we're here talking about being a role model, but then behind the scenes, you're basically saying like, hey, you're fat. Like you need to give yourself a fair shot.
Yeah. It's such an interesting world in such a sad way, because we're supposed to be standing up there promoting positivity in every single way. And it's behind the scenes something so different. So I felt like I couldn't represent that.
And no one says anything. So that's another thing I noticed too, is like people will notice you losing weight, or I always say being insane, because when you're actually in the game, you may not see it, but then you look back and go, wow, I was crazy, because you have to become very strict with how you eat. You'll be out and people be like, oh, have a bite. And you're like, no, I'm going to have to like, you know, do an extra run. And so people notice it, but no one says anything. So why do you think that is? Like, I'm sure your friends and family notice it too. Did anyone say, hey, this isn't good? Or were they just like, I guess, you look great.
Yeah,
You've lost weight.
My mom is never afraid to say anything. So she several times would say things like, Siera, are you sure you're doing this for the right reasons? Are you sure this is what you want to represent? Because what you're doing is not healthy. Like I'm here to support you, but I'm worried for you. And so my mom certainly was a strong support. Words of encouragement that I almost didn't want to hear, because I was thinking, no, I'm going to do what it takes to win. This is what it's going to take to win. I don't need to hear what you have to say. But I'm so glad that I had her in my life and still have her in my life to be that kind of bird on my ear to give those words of wisdom.
Yeah, but it's definitely hard, because I've noticed in the pageant world, they don't always, your parent can't always be with you. So I think that environment really creates you to be vulnerable. Not that I'm putting down pageants, but it's just, you have a lot of these people in the business and not everyone has the best intentions. So it's always like, you have to be careful who you think your friends are, because sometimes you can kind of be misled. So you did actually then end up coming for Miss Universe Canada 2016.
Yes, 3 years
and
later.
you won. So what was that experience like coming back? Like you said, you wanted to find yourself.
It was a really interesting experience coming back, because I knew going in, I had just run my first marathon. I was healthier physically and mentally than I had ever been, but I knew that I was going to be met with criticism. I knew that if I were to win, there was going to be people who were going to say, okay, here's what you have, all these great qualities, but the thing that's missing is the Miss Universe body. You don't have the Miss Universe body. I knew going in that was going to happen, but I had to prepare myself mentally for it and tell myself, if I'm meant to win, it's going to happen, and I need to stay strong for me. So I ended up winning, and that was seriously one of the first things. It was the first thing that I was sat down and told, is that I have all the things that you need to win Miss Universe, but what I was missing was the Miss Universe body.
Oh, you were actually told that? Eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And like to an extreme level, like it got to be to such an extreme level that it was suggested that I get laser liposuction, because I wasn't losing the weight and having the narrow waist. That was the ideal Miss Universe body. And I again started to lose myself in a different way. So now I was in a place where I felt so happy mentally, physically. I'd kind of overcome that barrier that I had faced in 2013. I was now actually representing what I wanted to. I achieved the title that I wanted to by representing that, and it still wasn't good enough, and it was still being met with criticism. And so I started to lose myself again in a way of thinking, well, what's the point then? If these people aren't seeing what I have to offer and seeing what I'm hopefully doing for these young women, why am I even fighting for it? Why should I go to Miss Universe, represent Canada, if all these people behind the scenes are telling me to be something else? So it was really challenging. And I almost didn't go to Miss Universe because...
Really?
Yeah, because I was just so fed up and upset that behind the scenes, the things that I was being told. So on the surface, people were saying, oh, we're so happy that you're representing kind of a new era of Miss Universe, that you don't have to have this body type to go to Miss Universe. If you have that body type and you work for it and that's what you want and that's what you feel good with, amazing. But there's a lot of different women in the world, and so they should all be represented. And so that was me, like, this is me, and that just wasn't good enough. And so it was really frustrating and really hard, and I had gotten so upset that I thought, what's the point of representing myself and representing Canada if all these people are telling me it's not good enough? So it was challenging, but I went anyways, and it was amazing.
I was gonna say, did you actually even come close to not going? Because I mean, you're in a contract essentially, right? So I kind of feel like you had no choice. They would be like, they'd ruin your life if you essentially didn't go. Well, you know, they make things tough for you, right?
Yeah, they make things challenging, but I mean, my first runner-up would have went to Miss Universe had I chosen not to go. But at the end of it, I thought, you know what, if I don't go, I'm going to be giving in to probably what these people want. If I do go and I represent what I represented at Miss Universe Canada, then I'll actually be doing a really good thing for women around the world who have always felt like, oh, I can't go to Miss Universe because I don't have a size 23 waist. And if you do have a size 23 waist, that's amazing. But there are women who don't have it, and they should also be represented. So I eventually just kind of did it for something more than me.
Yeah. And plus, it is an unbelievable experience, right? Just so you can say you're there, you're with women from, I think, 85 countries.
Yeah, it was.
When are you ever going to have that opportunity, right?
Absolutely. And it was in the Philippines. And the Philippines is seriously one of the biggest pageant countries in the world. When, even still, when I'm in Saskatchewan, when I'm in Alberta, there are Filipinos, and they recognize me without makeup. My hair could be crazy, and they know, they're like, oh, you look like Miss Canada. I'm like, oh, really? Thank you. That's so nice. But it was such an amazing experience being in the Philippines. I went back to the Philippines twice after Miss Universe. I went to help open the first Tim Hortons in Southeast Asia.
I love it, representing us Canadians.
Yeah, represent. It was pretty fun. I got to bring my brother and my dad, so that was such a cool experience for them. They got to see how crazy the Philippines is. And then I went back again in the summertime. My husband and I went. We were just boyfriend and girlfriend then. And we got to explore the different islands, work with Philippine tourism. So being at Miss Universe obviously provided more opportunity. So it was really amazing.
So then you arrive for the big pageant. And so, you know, when you go to the international pageant, that's where there's like a lot more international media. That's where you get exposed to all the different cultures, because Canada, in terms of pageants, we're not crazy about it.
No.
We don't go. But if you go to any, I really think in the Asian countries, because I know India's just like this too, it's like you're a celebrity. And so there's just a lot of coverage on you, a lot of people that are just rooting for you, and it can be a lot of pressure. So when you go there and then you're being interviewed, you're meeting all these women, what was the reception like? Were people nice to you? Were they welcoming?
Yeah, it was overwhelmingly, it was such a positive experience. The 85 women who were competing, 86 counting me, were so incredible, so nice. It was actually more of like a sisterhood feeling than competing at Miss Canada, honestly.
So no one was like, oh, you're a little bit bigger, or you don't look like me.
No, and what's so funny is there were so many other girls that were the like same size as me, if you will. It's just that people started criticizing me, and I didn't just ignore the haters. I didn't call out the haters, but I started sharing messages of positivity, saying, I may not look like what you expect from Miss Universe, but that's okay with me, and that should be okay with you.
Yeah.
And so I think I was just more vocal about it. So there were other girls who were the same size as me, maybe even a different size than me, and they weren't being criticized, they weren't being talked about, but I think it's just because they just let it slide, which is fine. But I knew I had to say something. So, and I tell a lot of people that on my social media when I was at Miss Universe, people were commenting things like fat, overweight, you're promoting obesity. And I'm like, I'm in my normal life, I'm like a size 6, size 8.
Exactly.
So if that's promoting obesity, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. But what bothered me is I may not take these comments to heart because I know they're ridiculous, but I was starting to get comments and messages from young women who were saying, if they're saying this stuff about you, what would they say about me?
Exactly.
What would they say about my daughter, my granddaughter? And so I thought, wow, these comments are actually impacting people. They're making people question themselves and question their bodies, and that is not okay. I may be able to handle it now after the experiences I've had, but some people really can't handle it. And so I knew I had to say something.
But it wasn't just social media. I remember international media picked it up, and I can't remember the name, but a former Miss Universe was, I think, on Good Morning America or one of those shows, and picking her top picks. And she named you, but she's like, but like she has to lose some weight. Like I think she was like, if she loses 10 pounds, she's got a great shot because she loves your face. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like
I was like, well, if one can lose 10 pounds in 3 days, I guess the whole world would be rich if we knew.
Yeah, but it was like 10 pounds, your life will be made. Like those 10 pounds apparently will make such a huge difference.
And how ridiculous is that to say that, oh, this woman could win this international title and be a role model for women around the world, represent all these organizations if she was 10 pounds less. I feel almost embarrassed to say that out loud because it's like, how ridiculous is that?
Yeah. So. But also I think it was good that it happened too, because I think it just made people that maybe just didn't say anything before were like, oh, this is like not a big deal. Just the ugliness of it made people go, whoa, this is like something that we don't want. Like this whole, first of all, pageant is supposed to be promoting, you know, women and role models, but then also we don't want women that are looking up to be like, well, if this woman is being said she's not good enough, then I'm not either, because I think the average woman is what, like a size 10, a size 8. So I think that's what you started this like movement. So that's like really cool.
Thanks.
Well, cool. I think you feel it too, because like I said, it like, gave you a great platform. And now you've obviously passed on your crown, but you're still able to work on these amazing campaigns and have like a legacy to help women.
Yeah, it's really like since Miss Universe, I have done a ton of public speaking about body positivity, self-confidence, self-worth, and just sharing my story, which a lot of people can't relate to going to Miss Universe, but they can relate to looking at themselves in the mirror and thinking, here's all the things that I would change if I could, and focusing on all these things that they're told to change rather than focusing on everything that they are and everything that they have. And that's just kind of how we're taught to look at ourselves is, oh, you know, I would love it if I had bigger boobs or a smaller waist. And we're fed that information in a lot of different ways. And so I just started sharing my story, and so many people have been able to relate to it in ways that I didn't expect, and that honestly I don't think they expected either. So how can I relate to this pageant girl? Oh wow, I really can, because I've questioned my bodies, because I look at all these models on the Victoria's Secret runway and think, wow, I wish I looked like that. Wait a minute, why do I wish I looked like that? How that is so weird. I'm me, I'm not them. So
I think every woman that looks at your story can put themselves in your shoes to be like, I know if somebody, like a stranger, said something mean to me, sometimes I know girlfriends that have cried, right?
Yeah,
like that their mom says something, or their boyfriend. But imagine being on a world stage where so many people, media, strangers, everyone is talking about this. So it's not even like a private thing. You know, people know this is being said. Where did you find the strength to just say, I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to compete. I'm going to do my best. And I'm going to stand up to everybody.
I think the strength came from, first of all, my family. I'm super fortunate to have my mom, dad, and brother who are so supportive. And they just kept saying to me, ignore those things. Like, you know, you're beautiful, you're amazing, whatever. But second, the messages that I was receiving from people that I didn't even know that were saying, thank you so much for standing up for yourself and for essentially standing up for all of us, for not looking like the models who walk down the runway. We need to be represented. And so I think that between my family and from all these strangers around the world who were messaging me saying thank you, that really gave me the strength to get up there and just enjoy myself and represent the best that I could.
Exactly. And I should make sure people know that even though people were saying that if you lost 10 pounds, you would be like the best Miss Universe ever, you made top 9, which it's like in 85 countries, 86, let's say, top 9. That's not bad. Yep, so I'm thinking that means that you didn't just go in they were like, oh no, you made top 9, which is very difficult to do. Well, and you should be very proud.
Thank you. And Canada hadn't placed at Miss Universe in 10 years.
See?
So had I done what all those other girls had done, who knows, maybe I wouldn't have placed. So anyways.
Exactly. So what do you think after all the pageants and everything, what was the best experience you got to do?
I think the best experiences that I have had is working with women. And the reason being is because it's so rewarding. It's so amazing to be able to stand in front of a crowd and look out and see that people are nodding their heads and acknowledging and recognizing and feeling what you're saying and being able to relate. I've been able to relate to women who are 60 with grandchildren, to girls who are 15 being cyberbullied. And it's something I just never saw coming. I never expected. And so that's probably been the best, most rewarding thing from my whole pageant experience.
And I think you probably got to meet some cool people too, right?
Yes, I've been able to meet some really cool people. Of course, Steve Harvey and his team. And back in the day, I met Justin Bieber. And I've met some really cool people. And I'd say the best people that I've met has been fellow pageant girls who I've formed lifelong relationships with. And
it's because we feel you. We know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We all feel each other. So I have met lifelong friends through the pageant world, and those are the things you just can't take away.
Obviously, your year, a lot of attention went on pageants. And I know in the following years, Miss America, they just removed the swimsuit edition round. Do you think that all pageants should remove this?
I'm so mixed about this, to be honest, because when I'm watching a pageant, I was just judging Miss Universe Iceland. I love the swimsuit competition because it's so much fun. Like, to me, it's fun for a few reasons. The evening gown is elegant and gorgeous, but the swimsuit, they amp up the music, and you can tell the girls are having fun. And what I think is important about it is that it should be about representing different bodies. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure to be walking on stage in a swimsuit. Like, I don't know if you get a lot more pressure than that, but to me, it's such a fun part of the competition. So I think if they change the way it's judged, because we're judging the women like kind of about like the way they talk and all these things. So I think if they're having a great time and we're like, wow, good for them, they're on stage in a bathing suit, like amazing. I think I think it's a fun part of the competition, and it just shows that there's all these different body types out there. So I'm mixed about it. I don't know. I think the approach Miss America took, I don't necessarily agree with them, because it also just takes away the whole essence of the show. I mean, I don't know what they're going to show now.
I don't know either. I'm trying to think.
There's no evening gown, there's no swimsuit, so I don't really know.
Maybe there'll be just a longer talent. I don't know. I always enjoy that.
But I always find, I'm like, a talent, like there's America's Got Talent. There's all these dance shows. Like, we're not going to watch Miss America just for the talent. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm mixed about it. I think it's a fun part. I loved the swimsuit competition. Like, I may have been criticized about my body, but if you see the videos of me, I'm having the time of my life.
You had that little shawl thing that you were like, you were just working it. Yeah, it's like, go girl.
Yeah, I thought it was such a fun part, because I was able to show that I can be on the stage in front of millions of people. I may not look exactly like the women standing beside me, but they don't look like me. I don't look like them. And that's the power of something like Miss Universe, to showcase women from around the world, different bodies, different faces, different accents. And so to me, that's just the beauty of it.
Absolutely. So if there was something that you could change, is there anything?
If there's something I could change, it would be the stigma around the pageant world, because people often think, for example, I just graduated from law school. And when
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so when people find out that I'm in law and they know me from the law world, and then they know that I'm involved in the pageant world, they're so shocked. Like, what? You're involved in pageants? Like, I can't believe it. Then when they know me from the pageant world and they find out that I'm in law school, now a law graduate, they're like, what? Like, you're actually smart? Oh my God. How can you do both? And so I think there's such a stigma that these pageants are just women who want to go on stage and flaunt their bodies and all this nonsense. And it's so much more. Like, I entered for Potential Opportunity when I was 16 years old. And
look where it brought you.
Exactly. So here I am almost 10 years later, which is so crazy, and have been able to experience these things I never would have experienced before. And so when people talk down pageants, I say, well, some of my best friends that I will now have for life, I met in pageants. Some of the best experiences I've ever had in my life were from pageants. Some of the best lessons I've learned, the best experiences that have led me to be successful in law school have been because of pageants. So I just wish the stigma wasn't quite so strong. Around the Miss America thing, I had so many interviews of people really trying to like criticize and like go hard and whatever. And I'm like, well, have you ever been to a pageant?
Exactly.
Have you ever met the girls behind the scenes? How can you be so judgmental? Have you met them? Have you talked to them? No, you haven't. So
or maybe enter a pageant. I always tell people to do that. I'm like, tell me if you can do what we do and then be able to do it well, then we'll talk.
And what I find further interesting is we never question when we're watching, New York Fashion Week and all those girls are going in for their Victoria's Secret casting. When they go to that casting, they're being judged on their bust, their waist, their hips, and how they walk. And if they don't have those things, too bad, so sad, see you later. And so if that's being judged on the physical, literally physical measurements and how they walk, and that's not even questioned. No, everyone, that's the dream. So many people have the dream to walk for Victoria's Secret. Why is the pageant world so questioned and has such a strong stigma when I'm walking away with all these experiences? I can have an interview. I can do I've gained experience from this. I wasn't sure I was judged on my physical appearance, But there was so much more that came from it, and people are questioning this, but they're not questioning like the modeling world where it's literally all physical.
Yeah, you could be the most drop dead gorgeous girl ever, but if you just walk out there and you're like, oh my god, no, people are gonna be like, so focus on that, right? Can you imagine if someone actually did that? They're like, don't look at me. But you have to walk out there, and you know, there's always some sort of malfunction, you know, especially with the Q&A. You never know what kind of question they'll throw your way, so you have to be ready to react. Oh, trust me, I always tell people my first ever pageant question, I thought I forgot English because I'd never done it, and as soon as the judge is asking you, it's like it doesn't make sense, and you're like, do I no longer know English?
Have I just forgotten? It's challenging. And I've seen a few videos where Miss Universe is happening, and they go, and I can't think of it, I think it was like a Miss Universe was going and asking people on the street. They were asking them top 5 type questions. And people just could not answer them.
It's tough.
It is challenging. And so I think people are like, wow, this is actually really hard. Like, I didn't realize you had to use your brain to compete in a pageant. And so there's just such an interesting stigma, and there's so much more to it. And it'll take forever to change, if it'll ever change. And I know Miss Universe is trying to change it, but then I think they get confused even how to change it. They don't know how to brand themselves. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens for the future of the pageant world.
Why do you think it is that random strangers feel the need to comment and tell you that they do not like you? That to me is the most, like, because if you think about it, if you're walking down the street, I don't know anyone that's going to come up to someone and be like, you know what, I think you're fat, or I don't like the way your eyebrows are, or something. And you're like, okay. But then if you are online, all of a sudden it's like every person thinks that they can be really mean to you. And it's like, but then don't look at that photo or don't follow them. So what do you think it is that there's these people that feel the need to just criticize?
I think the biggest thing is the power of being behind a screen. So people feel invincible because they're not saying it to your face, because they would never say it to your face. But when they're behind that screen, they can say anything they want. They can use an alias name, photo. And what I also try to tell people is if they're being cyberbullied, if they're being commented on negatively, it's almost always a reflection of that person. They're trying to shed their negativity onto you to feel stronger, to feel more powerful, because they're going to feel better if they're trying to tear you down to feel better about themselves. So I think it's that power of being behind a screen and just trying to be a rude individual who's trying to bring other people down.
So what advice would you have for somebody who's dealing with, let's say, negative comments?
I would say I do a mix. A lot of times I just ignore the comments because they're just so ignorant that it's not even worth my time to reply. But sometimes I will reply, and I'll say things like, would you ever say this to your mom, to your sister, to your girlfriend, to one of your best friends? I don't think so. So what makes it okay to say it to me? I'm a real person. So I would say for other people who are struggling with it, though, is just recognize that it isn't a reflection of you. You have done nothing. There is no reason that you need to feel bad. It is a reflection of that person, and if they feel the need to spread negativity, then they obviously do need more positivity in their life.
Is there somebody that is like a role model for you in the public space?
I would say my role model in the sense of her ability to be so vocal was Ashley Graham. I really thought she was amazing. Like her and I are not the same size. And what I find so interesting too is because I wasn't the usual typical size 02, people were calling me a plus size model, and I said, that is great to be like a plus size model, but I am literally a size 6'8". I am not a plus size model. I'm not a size 14, 16. Ashley Graham is, and that's amazing. She's representing, but that is not me. And so I got frustrated when people automatically, if you're not a 0 or 2, you're all of a sudden a plus size model. It's like, that was very frustrating, but I loved her ability to be vocal in a way that was like, wow, this is impactful. She's saying things that are important, and she had such a strong voice behind her advocacy. So I really looked up to her in the way she kind of spun everything in a positive way.
Yeah, and Miss Universe, I know, has been using her as a host.
Yeah, the backstage
so that's
host.
Great.
Yeah, that's so awesome. So I've met her a couple times, and she's awesome, very genuine, and seems really cool.
She seems like it. I would love
she's
to
lots
like
of fun.
Her. Yeah,
she's like we were
it.
like dancing behind the scenes. And yeah, she's fun.
She seems fun, but she also seems like a girl's girl, where it's like she will like have your back. So it's kind of nice to have girls that would be like, oh, what did you say? Like, I'm like, no one will mess with you if Ashley's around.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now what's going on? What are you working on?
Well, I mean, I got married at the end of last year, which because I was in law school, I said I would never get married, you know, taking too much family law. But
wait, so let's go back. When did you meet him? Because I feel like
this was a very fast process. So our families have known each other for years. My husband's name is Brennan. His mom used to babysit my dad.
Wow.
Yes, but we had never met. So we were 5 years apart. He's 5 years older. And so we had just never crossed paths in high school at different times. But we always kind of knew who each other was. He played junior hockey in Moose Jaw. So I just kind of knew his name. And then as the years went on, my dad would golf with him at tournaments and say, oh,
what?
I went golfing with Brennan Ray today. And I was like, okay, cool. Like athletes, no thank you. And then we started messaging around the time of Miss Universe, January 2017.
Wait, who made the first move?
Him.
Yeah,
but his message was very nice. Usually I'm like, ew, don't be creepy. Like creepy.
Well, he can't be creepy. He's golfing with your dad.
Yeah,
right?
well, I know. But he was very sweet, and it was something along the lines of, so cool to see a girl from Moose Jaw representing Canada at Miss Universe, or something. Like it was nice. And so I replied something super lame, actually, like, yeah, Moose Jaw, or something silly.
I would have said the same thing.
Yeah, like so lame. And so we started chatting. We ended up meeting in February of 2017, and we got married 10 months later, which is crazy. The exact same day as Miss Universe. So we were in Vegas. We got married at the Bellagio in the morning. Our family was there. It was the best time. No stress. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Like go have a little mini elopement or wedding if you don't want the stress. We all went out for brunch. We had a grand time drinking champagne. And then we went to Miss Universe in the afternoon with our moms.
So that's amazing. So in 10 months, you were able to meet the love of your life and get married. So like, how did you know? I'm sure there's many women in your shoes that are like, I hope that happens to me.
Yeah. Well, I just have always been almost like a skeptic of like marriage and whatever. And I don't know why I was like that, but partially, like I said, because of law school, maybe seeing so many divorces in the family law area. But when I met him, we met one evening, and then the next morning, my dad was driving me to an event. And I said, oh, I'm going to marry Brennan Ray. And he's like, oh, I know. So I just guess I knew. I don't know. And
were you joking?
No, I was serious. I was serious. Like I was actually serious.
So you really knew the moment you met him.
I'm a jokester, but like I wouldn't joke about something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just,
oh my God, this needs to be a movie now.
Oh yeah.
Somebody
totally.
make the movie on your life.
Movie. Okay. Yeah. I'll get one of my friends to play me on TV. But it was just like we had known each other for years, and in essence our families had, and we'd kind of had those family connections. So yeah, it just all kind of has worked so nicely.
It was timing, really.
Yeah,
then.
It was. Yeah, it certainly was timing, because I was kind of done with the pageant world. So, I mean, you can't be married and compete in pageants unless it's a Mrs. Pageant. So, yeah, we got married at the end of last year. That's
crazy. Amazing. That's what I was like when I was researching you, and I was like, last year, it's going to be hard to top that because you got a lot of milestones under your belt.
It was a crazy year. Yeah, it was crazy. Finished law school, got married, and now I'm pregnant. So, yeah, it was fun.
And I think you passed on the crown too last year, right?
Yeah, I passed on the crown of Miss Universe Canada almost a year ago. And so yeah, it's been lots of fun.
So where do you go from here? Like I know obviously we're going to be waiting for the baby.
Yeah.
Do we know, girl or boy?
Well, I took a blood test that says it's a girl.
Oh, perfect.
So I know. Oh yeah, perfect. I'm excited. My husband's like, oh, I wanted a boy.
A little pageant girl.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see. Whatever she wants to do, she can do. I don't really know what the future holds because it could go any kind of direction. I do so much public speaking and stuff, but I also have my law degree.
So I was going to say, are we going to see you
practicing law? I have 5 years to article, so I'm likely going to article in the next couple of years because you have to article to be a lawyer, and I want to at least get that being a lawyer.
Exactly.
So we'll see. I really am not sure, and I'm pretty type A. I like to know what's going on, so we'll see what happens.
And you moved to Halifax.
I moved to Halifax, and I'm missing the West so much. Halifax is beautiful. I love it, but all of my friends, family connections are Toronto and West.
Exactly.
So it's been a little bit of a challenge.
What's the best thing about Halifax? I've never been, so maybe you can do some recommendations.
I would say the best thing about Halifax is the people and the food. So the people are super friendly, welcoming, the food's amazing, and it really is a beautiful place, actually. So it's so many beaches.
So we should all come visit you.
Yeah, totally. Everyone come visit me. Let's have a big party.
You were telling me that you've got some new confidence programs that you're working on as well?
Yeah, so what I'm working on is I do a lot of public speaking at schools. And I always find that the teachers are so, I don't want to say grateful, but they said this is the thing that our young women and men have needed to hear. They're on social media, they're comparing themselves to all these big celebrities and influencers who they put an image out there, but they're not even necessarily confident in who they are. So all these young people are comparing themselves to them. So speaking is one thing. It's great to go to a school and speak, but I'm like, how can I make the message last a little bit longer? So I've been looking at doing different programming that's maybe speaking along with providing some kind of programming that makes what I had to say last a bit longer for these people and has more of a lasting impact, I guess. So I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but we'll see.
I was going to say, so if somebody wants to get information, how do they do so? I would,
right now my website is sierabearchell.com. I have like some info, I guess, more on like the pageant coaching side. But through the pageant coaching, I've done more confidence coaching as well. So I don't really have any firm info, but if anyone wants to email me and have me speak at a school or something like that, then you can reach me on my website, or my email's sierabearchell@gmail.com. Very easy.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay, so before I let you go, one of the things I always get asked is by pageant girls, right? Yes. Because I think pageants are so popular, and I always tell people go into pageants, right? Even if you don't want to go into Miss Universe or go and take it any further, I think it's just a great experience. Yes. You do, like you mentioned, meet amazing girls, you get to learn about yourself, develop confidence, and really, what a story. Like I always tell people when I'm in parties and people find out I'm a pageant girl, they always want to know the stories. I'm like, you'll have great party talk for the rest of your life. So what advice would you have for girls? Maybe we can do like the top 5 tips you've got for women and how they can, really just take pageants and make it their own.
Top 5 for pageants. For pageants alone, I'd say the number 1 is the most cliche but the most important, and that's to be yourself. Don't try to be the current Miss Universe. Don't try to be the former Miss USA. You have to be the best version of you if you want to have an enjoyable time and to be a strong competitor. And second, it kind of goes along with it, and it's don't compare yourself to the other women, because you can't change other people. You can't change what the judges are going to think of the other girls. You can only control you. So don't compare yourselves to others, and just be you, and don't compare yourself. And I'd say 3, really work on who you are. So I'm gonna give 3 maybe. The most important thing in an interview is, why are you there? Who are you? Tell us about yourself. And a lot of times people can't answer that in everyday life. And so that is such a strong and important thing, is developing who you are, knowing who you are. And I'd say, I'll give 4. Just be confident, enjoy the experience, and just have a grand time, because those memories will last forever.
Absolutely. I was gonna say also, when you enter pageants, I think a lot of people think they have to spend all this money and get all the sponsors, and it can be hard when maybe you live in a city that doesn't have that, and you had $100 dress and you just entered, right? And didn't even have any training, and you won.
Well, and the gown I wore at Miss Universe Canada when I won in 2016, it was from Nordstrom, I think, but I got it on sale for $275.
Nice. So, I like it.
I always tell people too, a pageant is going to be as expensive as you make it. You can get 5 different coaches that'll train you in walking, speaking, interview, the question and answer, it's very specific. You can get the best wardrobe, you can have the best gowns, you can have the best shoes. But when it comes down to it, the judges aren't looking at all of those things. They don't look at any of those things. They're looking at you. They're listening to how you speak. They're wondering how genuine you are, and if you will be a good title holder. So you can spend as much money as you want, but it's not going to guarantee you to win the title. I've never spent that much money. I've been fortunate to get sponsors to cover, say, entry fee, but I've never focused on my wardrobe or my gowns, because that stuff, it's great to have. You'll look nice, you'll look put together, but you can also do that and not spend so much money.
Borrow from your friend's closet. That's what I always say. I was going to add one more in there, is your pageant experience will only be as good as you make it. So I know there's girls that will see someone like you or see some of the other pageant winners and go, well, she went into a pageant and now she's getting these opportunities. But really, think of how many pageant girls there are, right? Think of how many pageants there are, first of all, around the world. I think Canada alone, we probably have 50 different pageants, right?
There's so many I don't even know about.
Yeah, exactly. And then think of every year how many girls are competing and how many of them actually are able to turn into something, right? So I always tell people, don't rely on the pageant to open doors for you. Use it as a platform, but the organizers are only there for the show, right? They're only, once Miss Universe for you, for example, is done, they're on to the next year. They're not gonna be like, well, let's see what else we can do with you, right? Let's make your dreams come alive, right? So I think that's really important is don't go in there expecting that everything's gonna be handed to you. Like even it's just like American Idol. You could be the runner-up and you could become more famous than the winner, right? You could have a legacy better.
It's like anything. And I think a lot of people rely on the organizers of an event, or they think, oh, if I win, all these things are going to happen. Well, little do people know behind the scenes, when I was Miss Universe Canada, every single speaking event I did, every event that I went to, I organized that myself. I communicated with people. I would reach out to people and say, hey, I'm going to be in the city. Can I come to your event? And they'd say either yes or no. You're met with a lot of no's. Absolutely. And this is regardless of being in a pageant or being in business.
Why would they say no to you?
Oh, I don't know.
You're coming in to like give a talk to help people feel good.
Sometimes it's surprising at the things that you're like, I'm willing to come and like volunteer cooking or doing whatever. And I think maybe it's just a pageant stigma. I don't really know. But if you rely on other people to do all that stuff for you and to make the experience for you, it's never going to be a good experience. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
well, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Great advice. And I know you're really good with actually helping people like on your social media or a website. So I know you mentioned earlier your contact information. I'm going to let people know, like, make sure to contact her because you do actually really help out. And I hope like we see all these women going for pageants and doing big things from it, right? I really hope everyone says like, oh, I entered a pageant and now I'm, doing this and this and this. It'll make me really happy.
I hope so too, because a lot of the women that we see who are news anchors and actresses and models,
even Oprah was a pageant girl. Did you know that?
No, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Halle Berry was like a runner-up at Miss USA, but I didn't know that Oprah was a pageant girl.
I think she didn't do like the universe. I remember she did like, I forget where she's from, but like Miss Alabama or something.
Yeah, see, we need to tell more people that. I'm gonna use that fact.
Yeah. Oh, I tell people that all the time when people are like, oh, why aren't you acting, or why didn't you go to Mumbai and keep modeling?
Which is great as well, but I mean, we all have different dreams and
exactly
goals.
But I think even Hillary Clinton, I'm gonna throw this out there, I'm fairly certain she did a pageant as well.
What?
Yeah, fairly certain. Like I'm like 98% sure. Wow. I'm gonna have to Google this right after. But I remember when I was after my pageant, girls were asking me for advice, and I would list. Part of it was I would list the names because some of them would say like my parents won't let me do it, especially from a South Asian perspective. There's a lot more pressure to be seen as okay, like we don't want you to do something like pageants. And I think especially with the swimsuit round, there's that misconception of, oh, what is our daughter getting into? So I would always say like, here's a list of women that got their start in pageants. Show this to your parents, right? So when you see someone like Oprah or Hillary Clinton, you go, I think those women did pretty well for themselves.
I would say so.
So
I'd like to
not
have
bad
Oprah's
company.
Job. I don't know about you guys, but
well, thank you again for
Yeah,
coming on. I'm so glad we had a chat.
I hope you guys liked my interview. If you like this and you want to see more, subscribe for more videos.
Feels like love when you're